Emily and Jason seemed like the perfect couple, charming, inseparable, and admired by everyone around them, but behind closed doors, their love hid a darkness that would spiral into obsession, control, and a terrifying fight for survival. Emily and Jason met on a crisp autumn afternoon at a local coffee shop, a chance encounter that seemed to sparkle with fate. Emily, a graphic designer with an artistic soul, was immediately drawn to Jason's confident demeanor and warm smile. Jason, a young entrepreneur with a magnetic charm, found himself captivated by her quiet intensity and thoughtful gaze. From the very beginning, their connection felt electric, like two puzzle pieces clicking together perfectly. Friends marveled at how naturally they seemed to fit, and the town quickly embraced them as a couple destined for happiness. At first, their life together was a whirlwind of excitement and joy. Weekends were spent exploring the city, attending gallery openings, and sharing secret spots only they knew. Emily loved the way Jason made her feel seen, like every small detail of her life mattered to him. Jason, on the other hand, thrived on the sense of control and admiration that came from being with someone so seemingly perfect. To the outside world, they were flawless, a couple whose laughter filled rooms, whose social media profiles radiated happiness, whose future seemed limitless. But beneath the surface, subtle signs of tension began to emerge. Small incidents, almost too minor to notice, hinted at the beginnings of a deeper problem. Jason would comment on Emily's friendships in ways that felt possessive, questioning why she spent time with certain people or why she sometimes didn't respond to his texts immediately. Emily brushed off these moments at first, telling herself that a little jealousy was normal in any relationship. Yet, as the months went on, these small behaviors began to accumulate, forming an undercurrent of control that Emily could not ignore. Neighbors who once admired their closeness began to notice subtle changes. Jason, who had always seemed affable and approachable, started to dominate conversations, steering Emily away from friends and activities that didn't involve him. Emily, once vivacious and outgoing, began declining invitations, staying home more often, and growing increasingly anxious whenever Jason wasn't around. Even in casual settings, her laughter seemed more restrained, her eyes scanning the room for signs of judgment or disapproval. Emily's friends started to express concern. They noticed the way she flinched at certain comments or hesitated before answering questions about her day. Her creative work, once her pride and joy, began to suffer as Jason's influence seeped into her life, dictating when and how she spent her time. Social media posts became carefully curated, avoiding anything that might upset him. It was as if the radiant Emily that everyone knew was being slowly replaced by someone molded to fit Jason's desires. Despite the warning signs, Emily clung to the idea of love. She convinced herself that Jason's behavior came from care, from a deep passion that others might not understand. She remembered the intensity of their first months, the moments when it felt as if the world had shrunk to just the two of them, and she held on to those memories as proof that their connection was real. Yet, with each passing day, the cracks in their seemingly perfect life grew more pronounced, unnoticed by most but increasingly suffocating for her. The town continued to celebrate them, unaware of the tension simmering beneath the surface. From the outside, Emily and Jason were a storybook romance, the kind people envied and wished for. But in private, the balance of their love was shifting into something darker, a dangerous mix of admiration, obsession, and control that would eventually push their relationship beyond the point of return. It was a perfect beginning, yes, but one that hid a storm quietly gathering on the horizon. Emily's life began to feel like a careful performance, each movement and word calculated to avoid Jason's disapproval. The small anxieties she had initially dismissed started to grow, feeding a constant tension that shadowed her daily routine. Even simple decisions, like what to wear or whom to message, required an almost secret consultation with Jason, whose influence had become increasingly suffocating. Her friends noticed the changes immediately. The lively, confident woman who had once laughed freely at any gathering now spoke cautiously, her sentences measured, her smiles fleeting and forced. She began canceling plans, claiming work deadlines or fatigue, but the truth was far darker. She feared what Jason would say if she defied him. The first truly alarming moment came when Emily went missing for an entire day. She claimed she had visited a nearby town, but details in her story did not align. A friend called her repeatedly, only to have the calls answered with vague explanations or quickly hung up lines. Though no one could prove anything at that point, unease settled in like a heavy fog. Emily herself felt trapped between the desire to leave and the fear of the consequences if she did. She had begun to see Jason not only as a partner but as a presence that could monitor and control every step she took. Soon after, strange incidents started to accumulate, each one raising the sense of danger. Emails she had written to friends were mysteriously deleted, text messages vanished without explanation, and her phone would ring with unknown numbers at odd hours. Emily once discovered small cameras hidden in her apartment, cleverly concealed in places no visitor would expect. The realization hit her like a cold wind. Jason's obsession had crossed a line, and it was no longer a matter of jealousy or insecurity, it was a calculated invasion of her life. Jason's manipulations extended beyond physical monitoring. He had introduced Emily to an online persona, a supposed friend who offered advice and guidance, but the messages were designed to isolate her further, reinforcing the narrative that only Jason truly cared about her well-being. The digital web he spun kept her dependent, eroding her confidence and sense of independence. Emily began to feel the crushing weight of constant surveillance. Unsure if she could trust her own instincts or distinguish reality from the carefully constructed illusions Jason created. Even mundane moments carried tension. Emily started noticing patterns in Jason's behavior, timing her errands, subtly questioning her interactions, insisting on knowing who she spoke to and where she went. At first, these actions seemed like small quirks of affection, but they were far more sinister. The realization that someone she had loved could meticulously orchestrate her life instilled a growing fear that seemed impossible to escape. As the days passed, Emily found herself living in a cage of her own making. The small freedoms she once took for granted, like choosing her schedule or visiting friends unannounced, disappeared completely. She existed in a state of hyper-awareness, constantly watching Jason for signs of displeasure, calculating how to behave to avoid confrontation. The line between love and control had vanished, leaving only a suffocating tension that threatened to engulf her entirely. The idyllic life she had imagined with Jason had transformed into a shadowed reality, one that foreshadowed darker events yet to come, a world where escape seemed increasingly impossible. Emily's fear had grown to a constant presence, a shadow that followed her everywhere she went. Every interaction with Jason was calculated, every word weighed carefully before speaking. Her friends urged her to leave, warning that the situation was escalating beyond normal boundaries, but Emily hesitated. The man she loved was also the man she feared, and her mind wrestled with the contradictions. He could be charming and caring, yet controlling and unpredictable. She clung to the hope that things could return to the way they were in the early months of their relationship, when their connection had felt effortless and exhilarating. One evening, Emily vanished completely. She had told Jason she was running errands, but she never returned home. Panic spread quickly among her closest friends, who immediately tried to contact her. Jason assured authorities and neighbors that she had left voluntarily, painting a picture of a woman who had chosen to escape for reasons he could not control. At first, the police accepted his story, as nothing seemed overtly suspicious and Jason had a convincing alibi, but Emily's friends were unconvinced. They remembered the strange incidents leading up to her disappearance, the deleted messages, the hidden cameras, and the manipulative online persona that had increasingly isolated her. Something was wrong, and it was far more serious than anyone had imagined. Investigators began digging into Jason's past and soon uncovered a pattern of troubling behavior. Previous relationships had ended abruptly, often under mysterious circumstances. Ex-partners described him as obsessive and controlling, yet no concrete evidence of criminal activity had ever surfaced. Authorities realized that the disappearance of Emily was not an isolated event, but part of a disturbing pattern. Digital footprints, including deleted social media posts, location data, and online communications, hinted at a meticulously planned web of control. Every move Emily made had been monitored and recorded. As the investigation progressed, it became clear that Jason's influence over Emily was far more invasive than anyone had suspected. He had engineered an environment in which she felt trapped, relying on manipulation, fear, and careful planning to maintain his control. Friends and family began piecing together the terrifying reality. Emily's disappearance was not an accident, nor was it a spontaneous decision. She had been removed from her normal life intentionally, placed in a situation where escape seemed impossible. The most shocking discovery came when investigators traced a series of financial transactions and rental agreements. Jason had secretly rented a remote property under an alias, creating a location where he could hold Emily without detection. Evidence suggested that he had been planning this for months, calculating every detail of her movements and the means to control her completely. The picture that emerged was one of cold, methodical obsession, a man whose love had transformed into a dangerous need for domination. As the town struggled to grasp the truth, the tension intensified. Every revelation painted Jason as a master manipulator capable of hiding sinister intentions behind a charming and normal exterior. Emily, once vibrant and independent, had been reduced to a prisoner in her own life, her autonomy stripped away by someone she had trusted implicitly. The line between affection and obsession had disappeared entirely, leaving only a chilling reality. Emily's life was in danger, and time was running out to save her. The investigation was just beginning, but already the story had taken a turn toward darkness, one that would shock the entire community and expose the depths of a love gone terrifyingly wrong. Authorities moved carefully, knowing that any wrong step could endanger Emily's life. They began piecing together Jason's meticulously constructed world, uncovering layers of planning that revealed just how deeply his obsession had taken hold. The remote cabin he had rented under an alias was a fortress of control, equipped with locks, surveillance cameras, and hidden compartments that allowed him to monitor every action. Inside, investigators discovered signs of Emily's presence, personal belongings neatly organized, journals she had been forced to keep, and digital devices that contained evidence of constant monitoring. Every corner of the cabin spoke of a life under strict surveillance, where privacy and freedom had been entirely stripped away. The journals were particularly revealing. Emily had been documenting not only her own experiences, but also her attempts to appease Jason and navigate the restrictions he imposed. Each page reflected her growing anxiety, the careful calculation of words to avoid anger, and the internal struggle between hope and despair. Authorities noted the meticulous entries that described her daily routine, her interactions with Jason, and moments of fear when she tried to resist or test the boundaries of her confinement. These writings painted a harrowing picture of a life dominated by manipulation and psychological control, showing just how far Jason had gone to isolate her from the outside world. Digital evidence amplified the sense of meticulous planning. Deleted emails, tracked movements, and covert communications indicated that Jason had maintained constant oversight, not only of Emily's physical location, but of her social and emotional life. He had cultivated an online persona to reinforce isolation, monitored her interactions with friends and family, and created a network of pressure points designed to keep her dependent and fearful. Every aspect of her life had been monitored, recorded, and controlled with frightening precision. The investigation revealed a level of obsession that blurred the line between love and criminal intent, transforming a relationship into a meticulously executed captivity. Surveillance footage from nearby areas revealed Emily's attempts to escape, moments when she had tried to leave the cabin under the cover of darkness. Jason's planning had anticipated every move, and he intercepted each attempt, reinforcing the sense that she had nowhere to go. Yet, these glimpses of her resilience showed an unbroken spirit, a determination to survive despite the overwhelming control Jason exerted over her life. Investigators realized that while the physical structures of captivity were formidable, Emily's inner strength might be her greatest hope for freedom. The revelation of the cabin and its contents sent shockwaves through the town. Neighbors and friends struggled to reconcile the man they thought they knew with the manipulative, controlling individual revealed by evidence. Jason had maintained a carefully crafted facade, blending charm, normalcy, and outward affection with an obsessive need for dominance. The story dominated local news, capturing public attention with its chilling combination of psychological manipulation, obsessive love, and near-tragic consequences. As authorities worked to ensure Emily's safety, the community began to understand the danger of deception behind familiar faces and the lengths to which obsession could escalate. The investigation continued to unfold, uncovering more evidence that confirmed the terrifying extent of Jason's control. Each discovery highlighted the precariousness of Emily's situation and the painstaking care with which he had orchestrated her captivity. The story had reached a critical turning point, revealing both the depth of his obsession and the extraordinary resilience of the woman trapped at its center. What had begun as a seemingly perfect relationship had transformed into a complex, calculated web of control, leaving the town reeling and authorities racing against time to bring Emily to safety. The breakthrough came unexpectedly, in a way no one had anticipated. A routine delivery driver noticed unusual activity at the remote cabin, a series of lights flickering at odd hours, shadows moving behind curtains that should have remained empty. The driver's intuition led to a call to local authorities, who approached the property with caution, aware of Jason's meticulous planning and the danger he posed. When they entered, they found Emily hiding, trembling but alive, her eyes wide with the shock of sudden freedom. The scene was chaotic yet revealing, evidence of her confinement, journals chronicling months of manipulation, and digital devices that documented every detail of her captivity. Jason was arrested without resistance, though his calm demeanor barely concealed the panic beneath. The evidence collected from the cabin painted a horrifying portrait of control and obsession. Investigators uncovered the full extent of his manipulations, hidden cameras, tracked communications, and meticulously planned contingencies designed to prevent Emily from escaping. Each piece of evidence confirmed the terrifying reality. Jason had orchestrated a life in which Emily's autonomy was systematically stripped away. His arrest brought immediate relief, but the story had already left a deep mark on everyone involved. The aftermath of Emily's ordeal was both emotional and complex. She was physically unharmed but carried deep psychological scars. Months of manipulation, isolation, and fear had taken a toll on her sense of self. Friends and family rallied to support her, but even with their care, Emily struggled to process the depth of the experience. Therapy and counseling became crucial as she worked to regain control over her life, slowly reconstructing the independence and confidence that had been eroded during her captivity. Every step forward was a victory, yet the shadow of what she endured lingered. The community was stunned by the revelation. Jason, who had once appeared as a charming, trustworthy figure, was now revealed as a manipulative predator whose obsession had escalated to dangerous extremes. Neighbors, friends, and acquaintances grappled with the shocking contrast between the man they believed they knew and the reality exposed by the investigation. Public fascination with the case grew, drawing attention to the fine line between love and obsession, the dangers of unchecked control, and the hidden threats that can lurk behind familiar faces. Legal proceedings moved swiftly. The evidence collected at the cabin and through digital forensics provided a strong case against Jason, Prosecutors highlighted the deliberate and calculated nature of his actions, emphasizing the psychological abuse and manipulation as central elements of the crime. The trial revealed the terrifying depth of his planning, the premeditated control, and the emotional torment imposed on Emily. Each detail shocked the courtroom, reinforcing the narrative of obsession gone dangerously wrong. Emily's story ultimately became a cautionary tale, a reminder of how love can be twisted into something dangerous when control replaces care. Her survival was a testament to resilience and courage, demonstrating that even in the darkest circumstances, strength and determination can prevail. Jason's arrest closed one chapter, but the consequences of his actions lingered, shaping Emily's life and leaving a lasting impact on the community. The story of crazy love resonated far beyond the town, a chilling reminder that appearances can deceive and that obsession, unchecked, can transform devotion into danger.